Hello there, welcome to Speaking of Business. I'm your host, Nancy Boyle. Have you ever thought about expanding your customer base, perhaps leaving the U.S. and marketing your goods and services in another country? Well, today we're going to be talking about exporting. So stay tuned because you might find a new customer in another country. Joining me today are Joanne Kazmierski with JAXPORT, Leslie Smith with Heavy Equipment Resources of Florida, and Kathy Hagan with the Small Business Development Center. So, welcome. Joanne, I'm going to start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do at JAXPORT?
Thank you, Nancy. I'm Joanne Kazmierski. I'm the community manager for outreach and environmental advocacy, and we focus on 5 areas at JAXPORT. One is small business, and that's why we're here today, teaching people how to do international trade as well as procurement opportunities at JAXPORT, environment, education, jobs and workforce education, and then giving back in the community. So my role is pretty much being out there and getting to know others and making business happen.
Well, good, because we're making some business happen today. Leslie, why don't you tell us a little bit about, I'm going to call it Hero so I don't mess up the name again. So you're the hero. Tell us about your company.
Well, thank you for having me again.
Sure.
I'm president of Hero. Started an export business through these ladies right here that put on an export certification course about 1.5 years ago, and I've been in the landscape and construction business for the last 25 years. As the economy around here got worse, I felt like it was a good opportunity. So we've moved forward from there with the export business and with the help of UNF, a port, of course, Enterprise Florida, and the U.S. Department of Commerce.
Excellent. Kathy?
I'm Kathy Hagan with the Small Business Development Center at UNF, and we provide management assistance for small businesses in a wide variety of areas, but one of those being international trade and exporting. So I meet with people one-on-one all the time, helping them develop business plans, which we still got to work on, and run workshops, training programs. That's what we do out at UNF.
Well, and I think, Leslie, you brought up a good point. You know, the economy was starting to do some funny things, so you have to start looking for new markets. So what was the catalyst, and maybe that's not the right question, we know that the economy was doing funny things, and so you started looking elsewhere, but kind of walk us through that process, because my guess is we've got people in the audience that are sitting here thinking, that sounds like a good idea. I'm looking for a new customer base, and my current clients perhaps are holding their own, but I need to expand, and I hadn't thought about expanding into another country. So kind of walk us through that.
Well, I can tell you things that I've learned. The first thing is was being in the first class of this export certification course that goes you through every step of export, from export to your freight forwarding, your shipping, and so forth, and the banking, the financing for the customers, and that's what we've tried to implement, is things that no one else is doing to help the customer with finance, to find the machines, to warranty the machines, and to maintain the machines while they're over there. But I believe that for anybody trying to start out, I happen to be reading the Business Journal and lucked up on this because it's not something that you want to take lightly. If you do want to get involved in the export business, you need to be serious about it, and you need to learn as much as you can learn about it, because it can be complicated, but it can be rewarding, because the world is it's a global place. I mean, it's a small place. Yeah. So, with that said, I think that it's just a wonderful thing and a wonderful series that these guys put on, and I believe that anybody serious about it can expand their customer base or start something brand new and exciting.
Kathy, then that was a good segue. Let's talk about the certificate program. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is really for an established business. We're not looking, it's really not going to be appropriate for somebody who's sitting there thinking, gee, I'd like to get into business and I'm going to export whatever. I mean, you're really looking for somebody who's worked out the bugs, who's established their business, who knows their processes.
Right. Well, I think that's probably true. And this is the International Trade Certificate Program we're now this will be our 4th series that we've run since, I guess, a year and a half ago when Leslie was part of the inaugural class. And it's actually a program developed through the Florida Small Business Development Center Network a number of years ago, but we had just started it a couple years ago here in Jacksonville. It is very much designed for existing businesses, and I will say that there have been some startup businesses that have been in there who probably learned, but I think to have a going concern, as Leslie did, and looking to expand into new markets and think out of the box in terms of, we do, landscaping, but we also have all this heavy equipment laying around. So that's where they identified the opportunity. There's lots of people who say, well, exporting, that'd be really cool, and, what product and what country is the best? Well, I don't know the answer to that. I might be doing it. So it really is for somebody that's got something going. But it does take, as Leslie described it, we try to go through the steps that are the information that's necessary to be successful, because it's not easy. It is different from domestic business. So understanding markets, understanding distribution, pricing, promotion, all of those things are part of it. And I think probably the biggest thing, and Leslie I'm sure would agree with me, of this whole series is the networking opportunities that are created and the resources that small businesses are introduced to, because it goes well beyond the SBDC in terms of the players that are in Jacksonville, including Jacksport, including Department of Commerce, including Enterprise Florida. There's so much stuff that they have, and we're all good government agencies. We don't have a marketing budget to tell everybody about it, so we bring that to the table in this workshop, and I think that's the real value of it.
Yes.
Okay. Joanne, I want to jump back to you here. What are some of the things that you as the port, you representing the port, can do to assist businesses such as Leslie's in doing this exporting?
Well, the main thing is providing the vehicle of transportation overseas, and looking at Talleyrand. I think you export through Talleyrand, and we have the terminals and we have the infrastructure in place to offer the actual physical movement and really getting people connected. Kind of segueing to what Kathy was saying in regards to the connections. Leslie's effort was not done in vain. He really networked well and used the government resources, and Jacksport was one of them when it came to who are the right people to move the goods and what shipping line and who to use. I mean, Jacksport certainly is a great resource. I do want to say one thing, though, really the importance of this program for the small business community. Years ago, before this program was developed with UNF, we'd be out in the community quite often where we had a business that was ripe. And they were very interested in, maybe they had a contact in a foreign country, and they had a product or a commodity or even a service. It's not all about products. And really there was no way to teach them or to educate them or to really help them along. Right now Jacksport is very looking at the large clients like Hanjin and TrayPac, and you have a lot of, without naming all the other companies out there, but we're focusing on really big pieces of business. But then we have the community, and the community like Leslie and others who were very interested in trading really didn't have any place to go. So now, if there's a ripe business or somebody who's really in business and serious about it, there now is a mechanism. And what UNF has been able to do through the Small Business Development Center is to really pull it full circle by bringing the partners in, and Jacksport is just one of those key players in international trade regarding products because we have the ships and we have the connections to the world.
Okay, so if I'm sitting out there in the world and I've got a product or service, and I want to find out more about it, and I'm enticed by what you're saying on the training program that you're doing, who do I call? What do I do?
You can go to our website, the Small Business Development Center website, which is www.sbdc.unf.edu. And on our homepage, under What's New, there's a link to the International Trade Export Series. And you click on that link, and it'll take you to the registration page. You can pay online. It is a 6-part series that starts on September 24th, which is a Thursday, and it'll be 6 consecutive Thursday mornings held out at the UNF University Center.
Okay, and what's the fee?
The fee is $295. and includes a book, includes continental breakfast, a host of really excellent resource partners, and speakers, and what I call live case studies, which is most definitely Leslie Smith and the gang from Hero, so that people can not just hear from, we're all government, me and Joanne and the Department of Commerce and Enterprise Florida, but to hear it from, from the horse's mouth, if you will, as to, this is really exciting, and this is what happened and how it happened, and you need to get involved. That's what we try to get across.
We are so proud of Leslie and Hero. We still remember when they registered, we saw a landscaping company. How are they going to be an international trainer? But it's true. But it really makes people out there in the audience understand that anybody can do it if your mind is to it. And Leslie came in with his son and his brother, and really walked the walk and went through all the classes. And here we're so proud of Leslie. You really are. And there are other successes as well in the courses. It's not just one, because we won't want to just say, well, there's one success and that's all we've had.
Sure.
We've had through all the training courses many successes that that Kathy can tell you about, and if anybody has any questions, you can certainly contact Kathy at UNF. But Leslie certainly is one of those shining stars, because when you see the application come through in a landscaping company, how are they going to trade? And then you look at them not even just a little over a year later and what they have done. It shows that really anybody putting their mind to it, utilizing the resources that we are providing through the training courses, it really makes it happen. So we're very proud of you, and we look at you as our shining star out there, if you will.
Which brings up a good question, because here you are, you're looking at the Business Journal, you see this ad for this training program, you go, hey, that sounds interesting. But how did you figure out where to sell your stuff?
Well, again,
it's a big world.
If you're running a business, I mean, I'm somewhat business-minded.
Sure.
So it's if you take advantage of the resources. I mean, for instance, Jorge Arce with the U.S. Commercial Department, where they have hundreds of offices in countries all over the world. Well, they have commercial specialists there also that you can go on Gold Key.
It's a matchmaking service.
It's a matchmaking service. So the resources are there to really help you find the customer. Find the customer base.
So I can go in there.
You can.
You go in there, you put in your stuff, and it matches you up with different countries that are purchasing what you're looking for.
Now, you can't be afraid to get on a plane and fly to Africa or fly to Lima, Peru. You have to take that challenge, but yet it's a lot of fun too. I've had a ball, so.
Well, and you mentioned Africa, because we have a delegation in town now with Africa. I know you've been talking to them. Why don't you share a little bit about what your experience with that has been?
There's a West African delegation that's in here now, that's through the U.S. Commercial Service and Enterprise Florida. I believe there's, I don't know, there's 7 or 9 countries, and we hosted a reception last night at Hero for the folks. Really nice people. They really appreciate it. It was a really great thing. We had, I was born and raised in this community, and good with the port and the help that we've got. I've brought in many local companies: Mike Davison Ford, Tom Neal Chevrolet, Vermeer, Porter from they're out of state. But many local companies, to represent them, were at my yard last night. So that just promotes all the local business in Jacksonville. So all these people were really appreciative that I had all this equipment, all these different vendors, and the banks there to help them with the finance last night. So that's what they come here for, was to get something accomplished. People want to do business with American companies. They want American products. And because you can go buy something in China and 5 minutes later it's going to be broke. You buy an American product, it's good quality stuff. So we just try to take the view that we try to run this business the same way. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And so it reflects to these people, and they read it too. So I'm in here now for the long haul, to make friendships and to build long-lasting relationships. And that's what we were doing last night, and I think they really appreciated it. And we're meeting with them today, and hopefully do good business and go to their country and see them soon.
Excellent. Well, that leads to another question, Joanne. What are some of the products and services that are coming in and out of the port?
Yeah, that's a great
I mean,
question.
heavy equipment, that's kind of an obvious one. But
And automobiles are huge. You know, we are the second largest importer and exporter of vehicles in the United States, behind New York, New Jersey. People always think we're behind LA or some port out on the west, but they have more containers in the west than they do have automobiles. So really, right here in our neck of the woods, automobile, anything what they call roll on, roll off equipment, which is a part of what Leslie does with heavy equipment. But what I did is I brought a list, because I just knew that since we're talking about the export series, the International Trade Certificate Program, the other hot commodities that we said are being exported from our region are grocery foods, poultry, fresh and frozen, paper goods, beer and ale, and construction equipment is big, and construction materials, auto parts, non-alcoholic beverages, more dairy, animal feed are really in our top 15. And then really the countries, because that might be important too for the audience out there, the number one trading, exporting countries are Puerto Rico, now although that is American, but really Puerto Rico, we have heavy trade lanes to Puerto Rico. Brazil. Brazil is our number one international trade partner, and UNF in the spring will actually be working with the Brazil-Jacksonville Alliance on additional trade training for Brazil. Saudi Arabia, Bahamas, Russia, United Arab Emirates, Venezuela, Virgin Islands, Argentina, Trinidad and Tobago, Nigeria, Colombia, South Africa, Dominican Republic, and Cuba. So therefore, as the audience is considering, you know, where do we trade to, at least on the exporting, and as it ties into the class, these are key countries. And as Leslie said, we have our resources such as Larry Bernaski and Jorge Arce with the U.S. Department of Commerce, and really those gentlemen are a phone call away to really getting you connected to somebody else in the world, and a lot of it is picking up the phone. I know we kind of joke in meetings as we talk or as we see Leslie, but Jorge always says, Leslie has my number, and he's on it, but you know, you have to have the drive. Yeah, and the biggest thing in exporting, I know I'm a little diverging from your question, but it might be a segue to another question, is, and Jorge says this and every time he meets, is having a mindset. When Leslie talked about not being afraid to get on the plane and travel, not being afraid to actually travel overseas and meet with people when these delegations come through, you have to have that willingness. If you have the willingness and mindset, that's more than half the battle to getting you there.
well, and it's not like you decided, oh, I think I'll go to South Africa and hopped on a plane and went. You went with a
These were
delegation.
trade missions. Also, too, I just wanted to say one thing. When she was listing off all these countries, just for the viewers, you know, all these statistics that she said are available on how much of that poultry is being sent, how many used cars are being sent. We do cars too, by the way. We like to call ourselves professional exportors. It doesn't matter. I'll see if this container.
If you want it, I'll find it, right?
So, you know, but all this stuff, the information that's available to you, if you really jump into it, I mean, it's there. I mean, that's what our country wants. We want to export.
Right. Yeah. I think it's important that we're dropping some names and make sure that we know who what I would consider my go-to guys are for international trade and for this export series. Is Jorge Arce, who's with the U.S. Department of Commerce, Foreign and Commercial Service. And his office is here in Jacksonville, but they have offices throughout the world, and they set up programs that you mentioned, the Gold Key service, where you can, well, they will set up appointments for you for people to want to buy your stuff, not just anybody's stuff, but they want to buy heavy equipment. It's a matchmaking thing. And then also Larry Bernaski, who's with Enterprise Florida, who has a similar program. They run trade missions. They bring in trade delegations. So that's how Leslie gets leads, and almost
That's
exclusively, that's what the resource that we try to bring to the table in this workshop is you know, there's so much information out there. You're drowning in information, but starved for knowledge. Well, these guys have the knowledge.
And I'm going to interject there too. Just being in the classes, I've sat through at least almost 3 of the sessions already just to observe, and it is amazing, as Leslie has said, sometimes even within the class itself, a trade happens. And because you get to know these people for the total amount of time for 6 weeks, and by that time, you feel very close, and there are people doing business with each other. And so really, sometimes your best networking is right in your own class that you paid the $295 for, which the value of that is way beyond the certificate of completion. So.
Well, and I like the collaboration idea. As you were mentioning, you had car dealers and various people all there.
All local people there being represented through HERO last night. So that can do nothing but help the community. And so, you know, everybody's on board. And then these guys that's been in business for many years and very successful, they're learning about export. So everybody's getting excited about it. Like I said, the world's kind of shrunk, you know. So everybody's getting on board. They're getting on the hero train.
Well, and you know, in the old days, which were not so old, you know, your competitor was the guy down the street or across town, and then it expanded. It was somebody out of state or somebody over on the western part of the United States. Now your competitor could be anywhere, but so can your customer.
And I think there's also, people don't realize that you can accidentally become an exporter, but by virtue of having a website. So somebody's out there looking around, they see your products, you get a phone call from South Africa, you know, or an email saying, hey, we'd like to buy your stuff. Uh-oh, how do I do that? That's the accidental exporter, and that happens a lot too.
Well, we've talked a lot about products. I think that's kind of a no-brainer, as if you have a product. But what are some of the services? Kathy, I'll direct that to you. What would some services be that might be exportable?
Well, almost any kind of professional services, and Joanne, you can help with this too. Accounting services, consulting, you know, graphic design, advertising and PRs, often, you know, those types of anything. I mean, the personal services where you have to have physically somebody there, you know, that's a kind of a different business model there. But you know, by virtue of you know, the internet and email and things like that, it's not that difficult to provide those professional services, you know, to people and businesses in other countries. So that's really probably the most thing that I see.
Well, and I guess with technology, you know, you can email anything anywhere.
And you know, just something, a tidbit for the audience, just a very simple tidbit that I know I pass along is your website. So many of us put the 904 space 288 or whatever the number may be. You have to make your website where it's user-friendly to put international phone numbers and addresses in. If you have your zip code on your website where it's only numerical and somebody's coming in from another country and they have letters in their zip code, they cannot, you are not going to track them if you want their address. So make sure that is as simple in terms as Kathy said, is that when you have a website you can become international. Make sure that your website could be accepting international phone numbers and zip codes, and so that they're not segmented to how the United States list our phone numbers, if you will.
Well, that's interesting. You know, you have the order form on there, but if you only have spaces to fill in a U.S. kind of address, then you are limiting.
Right.
So something as simple as fixing your order form on your website could generate a lot of traffic.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, with technology, it is global. You really summed it up nicely, saying that your competitor is no longer your neighbor. It's somebody, it could be somebody somewhere else in the world.
Well, but your customer is no longer your neighbor either.
Yeah, that's
you know. So, how many countries are you actually working with now?
Gosh, I mean, we actually have country managers in about 9 West African nations now, where we actually have people answering the phone, hero, and are coming up with maintenance facilities, of course, at a cost, or the monthly cost once we sell the equipment. But we also have country managers in South America. We have a gentleman that worked for Enterprise Florida for 12 years. That's now on board with Hero. That set up every trade mission in South America for the past 12 years. So, yeah, we're involved there, and we're in Europe because a gentleman that works with me, Uli Neeland, is German, and so so he has a presence there. So, gosh, we're everywhere.
That's, I mean, mind-boggling, because we talked maybe a year ago, and you were just getting started with this.
Yeah, I'm really stumbling around now. Well, I mean, but you know, it's like anything else. I mean, if you're really into something and that's what you're doing, I mean, you learn every day and you learn by experience. Right. And I keep burning the phone up, you know. Am I making a mistake?
Well, and you know what? That's a good point, because I think sometimes people are afraid to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I need help."
Right.
You know, I have a question, because they want to look like they don't know what they're doing, but in fact, that's how you're learning. I mean, you didn't go from not exporting a thing to having representation in 9 different countries in 12 months by sitting around thinking you could do it by yourself.
No, you're not going to, you're not going to take any chances, because you send something on a boat, you don't get paid, you might not be in business very long. So you're going to make sure that everything's in order, and things work differently in every country, and banks work differently in every country.
Now, have you found that U.S. Department of Commerce, that Jorge's area has helped to facilitate that function of getting paid and
Well, I mean,
interacting
they're a
with
government
locals?
entity. I mean, they can only get
It's your
involved.
banker.
Yeah, they can only get involved so far, but they certainly have advice, and I mean, these guys, listen, you know, they really go to bat for you.
Okay.
I mean, they go to bat for you. They give you the right advice, and if they don't have it, then they send you to the people that do. And so you just really you have to be careful, just like anything with any business, but it's just different ways of doing business in different areas, and different cultures, different attitudes, different procedures.
Well, and again, you have to be open to modifying the way you do things based on somebody else's cultural processes or whatever.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
Kathy, let's go back to the certificate program again. And who are some of the other sponsors? Who are some of the other people that people will meet when they get involved with this
So
program?
we're partnering at UNF with the Division of Continuing Education, and they actually have a program that they launched, I guess, a year ago, which is the Center for Transportation and Logistics. And we are kind of plugged in their one small business program, kind of like Jacksport. You know, they have carved us out and are promoting it in that way. And with that, they're bringing in some great sponsors for the I guess breakfasts, since we're doing breakfast this time. So folks like Grimes Logistics and you know, a couple other ones that will come in and give the attendees the opportunity to network with people from big businesses that are involved in international. So, and then also Jacksport, Enterprise Florida, and U.S. Department of Commerce are key players without which this program couldn't happen. So those are our sponsors that are coming to the table.
Well, I just find the whole thing so interesting, and especially listening to Leslie's story of going from 0 to 160 in 12 months. What kind of tips do you have for somebody in the audience?
I would just tell you plainly, it is, to me, unless you've been brought up in an export or environment, that it really would be impossible to do without first going through this, because they've took the time, and I'm sure this what they put together wasn't put together in a month before the first one. They've put it together so that you can succeed. I believe that it would pretty much be impossible for you to succeed without first doing this preliminary. So, I mean, the best advice I have for anybody is to sign up and pay your $295.
We also bring in the speakers to this. I mentioned my live case studies like Leslie, but also bankers, freight forwarders, insurance agents or carriers that handle, you know, insurance for shipping lines, things like that. You know, there are all kinds of people that are the resources to help make a transaction happen, that we bring to the table, the subject matter experts, if you will, which you know.
And it's a different subject every week.
Yes.
And then you've got stuff, you've got material to read and homework, you know, to say, you know, you just get so much information. You have to have that information to get started, because you just can't get started. You can't get started otherwise. I mean, if you don't have any idea how the financing work and what letters of credit are, how to get paid from a letter of credit, and making sure that you have the right types of insurance, and you're not sending something on a boat that you don't have marine insurance on, for example, and the boat sinks. Well, you know, you're out the money. So you have to know, all those things are so important, and you would have not a clue, just even the terminology, unless you started at this class.
We are out of time. I am sorry, but you in the audience, sign up for that workshop today and come back next time when we'll be speaking of business. And thank you all for being
Thank you,
here.
Nancy.
Thank you.
Nancy.